You also were considering viewing BH Peloton, and you had another basket of stocks that you wanted to review with us this morning?
Yeah, let's take a look at some of those, Kevin. Let me pull up some of these. I was looking for, because the market was showing that momentum shift, I was trying to find some things intraday here. Hold on, let me see if I can pull this. My drop-down menu keeps getting in the way. I'm going to pull up some 5-minute charts here to see how they're holding up. What I was seeing was, I was trying to find some things that had that momentum shift, but then had popped this morning and were kind of holding up and starting to form in a range going into, this time zone. Because oftentimes, if they start to range around there, then you're going to be able to see a breakout. And a lot of these, like this BHP here, they were congesting intraday at these moving averages. We're looking at this 200-period moving average up here along the highs. So I was trying to find things that could be holding up, that could give us an upside breakout if the market does start to show a good reaction off of this support zone. Mm-hmm. So BHP was one of them. Again, these are just day trade type of potential things. SCO was another one. Again, we had that momentum shift here.
Mm-hmm. This is the short crude oil, right?
Mm-hmm. And we're seeing that again also holding up here. So we had that rally. Here's a good example of those 3 lows, like I mentioned earlier, where it wasn't quite as much of a shift in momentum compared to the drop. So it bounced, and then it put in that slightly lower low, and then bounced again. And this is what I was talking about on the NQ. So those 3 lows, you can kind of see an example of, I drew the template on the NQ, but here's it in real life. So SCCO is one of them. Let me pull up another.
SCCO? Was that Southern Copper?
Sorry. Oh, yes, it was the copper.
Okay, because I thought it was SCO, short crude.
Oh, no, sorry. SCCO, 2 C's.
Okay, gotcha. SCCO out there, traders, if you're following along. And that is Southern Copper Core.
Yes.
That's actually having a pretty nice bounce today.
BBL, black long, another one where we had those shifts in momentum here, and it popped here this morning. And again, we really want to see these hold, though, in about that upper half of that bounce into this morning, just to show that it's going to continue to show strength throughout the afternoon. And we might not get a breakout in this until later, late this morning or even into the afternoon if it does continue to hold up. We want to see slower downside, within this congestion, where as it's coming off of the upper end of the zone, we see some slowdown into the lower end of the zone, and that's really going to help give us the strongest breakout. If we see it really pull back sharply and base down along here instead, then that's going to be easier to continue to break and try to fill those gaps. So we don't really want to see that happen within this zone here. We want to see it hold the lower end of the channel. A lot of these are coming in for a second test of the lower end, so we want to see some nice strong reactions off of that.
Okay, and that's the other class share, BH Peloton. They're both moving up, so we're kind of looking at these to start to break or maybe bounce off of these lows a little bit.
Right. And, of course, I was actually looking at that EXXI that you were also talking about earlier in the session, but it's really pulled back farther than I wanted to see. It had also, bounced this morning. It had an initial pullback, an initial bounce, or a secondary bounce. Let me see if I can widen this up so you can see this action a little bit better. But then instead of showing us that slower pullback off that second high, it formed this little avalanche here, which we can actually see better on like a 2-minute time frame. And so you can see that drop off of the highs, and then this 2-wave move within this avalanche formation, and then it triggered a short here. And so we really wanted to see this overall channel pull back more gradually, pop back up, and then, even shift momentum again to give us a nicer, stronger breakout. I mean, it's at some support in here, but it still even looks like it could pull through that and completely close the gap now. So not really much of interest to me at this point, but it was originally.
A lot of these are actually kind of going through that. And as I went back and I looked at EXXI, the thing that attracted me to this is the more that I got to know where it was located in relation to what's happening in the Gulf. It actually looks like this might be one of the companies that's involved in potentially the cleanup effort or the capping effort. It'll certainly bear a little bit more research to confirm that, to see exactly where our position is there. But it was setting itself from a leader. And I also noticed this morning that Tesoro, Marathon Oil, Valero had both had upgrade, all three had had upgrades within its sector compared to some of the other refiners. So there's certainly something going on there with some of the smaller independent oil refiners.
Right. Yeah, that's true. Looking at the short side, I was also trying to find some things, if the market does hold near lows, we can get some more continuation action on the downside. Of course, I was pulling up a lot of these oil-related stocks, the things that were related to what's going on, and not in a good way in the Gulf. And, BP is always one of them. And looking at, things BP, RIG, APC, DO, all of these, trying to look for continuation of the weakness. But what we saw was that, again, we're getting those momentum shifts. And that's not really something I want to see in order to give a really good continuation for a short. If this were going to give us a better short, it should have held that earlier opening zone and then formed a range. So pulled back into that low, around 10 o'clock, bounced, and then basically held that zone to give us either breaking here or pulling up and giving us another breakdown, instead of forming this shift in momentum where we have these slightly lower lows. It's causing these traps. Now this can do the same thing where we get these three lows, and then we see that bounce. Oftentimes it's going to be like a two-way bounce, and then it'll be a breakdown later in the day again. But at this point, we're probably looking at it trying to do a little bit more of a stronger correction off of this low. So it's going to be a higher risk thing to short, I think, right at this point intraday, but probably worth keeping an eye on.
All right. Well, that sounds like, sorry to interrupt you there, but it looks like some solid ideas for us on the day. Traders, some of the stocks we're looking at were BH Peloton, BHP, BBL, two classes of that, SCCO, and as we talked about, EXXI, and a few of the other ones that might be setting up potentially for some short trades. I'm sorry, we're running short of time, Toni. Will we see you again this week?
I'm actually going to be on the road on Thursday, but I will be here later this afternoon, so you'll see me around 2 o'clock. So I will be here at 2 o'clock.
You'll be joining us on the closing bell once again. Well, have a safe trip. Folks, again, she's going to be in L.A. and Pasadena. Keep an eye. Find her on Facebook. Your Facebook, again, is Trader Toni. Is that correct? Well, I think she's gone. Anyway, thanks a lot, Toni, for tuning in. One quick